So back in this project we worked on before, I shut down my dev server, but I can of course restart it with manage.py run server as we did it all the time throughout this course. And with that server up and running again, I want to go back to the source code and there to this project folder, bookstore. In there, if we have a look at urls.py, we see something interesting. There is this admin path in URL patterns. And that's a path we already saw before in the course. I didn't comment it much because we didn't need it up to this point, but now I want to take a closer look at that. What happens if we visit this admin path? Now, what happens when we enter /admin on our running page here? We should get a login field, a login form like this here. And of course, we didn't build this. Instead, this is built into Django. This already exists in Django. This is provided by Django. And where is this coming from? Well, obviously from this admin URL, but in the end, this admin URL is then pointing at admin.site.urls. And that is coming from the django.contrib module. And overall, this is all coming from one installed app, this Django contrib admin app. This is one of the built-in features, one of the built-in apps Django ships with, which gives us some pre-built functionality. In this case, for example, this user interface. So it would be nice to log in there to see where we can get, but how do we log in? What's our username? What's our password? Well, there's one thing I want to emphasize before we go ahead and log in here. This administration interface here really is not meant for the end users of your site, not for your visitors, but for you as the site owner to administer the content that makes up your site. If your site then also has some user-generated content, like orders in an online store, that of course would not be something you mainly administer through the interface we're about to load. But if you're building a blog and you have blog posts, if you build a shop and you have products, that's the type of content you want to administer through this interface. But that brings us back to the question how we can log in here. Well, since this is for you as the site owner, you as the site owner need to create a super user here, which in the end then can log in. And initially, such a user does not exist, but we can now easily create one. For this, you just need to quit that running server and then run python manage.py create super user. That's another built-in command this manage.py file gives you. You then get prompted to pick a username, and I'll just use Max here or admin. Maybe admin is not a great name for security reasons, so I'll go for Max. And then enter some email address here, and I'll just enter a dummy email address. And then also a password. You're not seeing it here as you type, it's still being registered. So enter your password, hit enter, and confirm it, and hit enter again. And you see, I actually picked a password which was too similar to the email address and which was not long enough. But I can still tell Django that I want to take this password. And I'll do this here, since this is only in the scope of this tutorial and of this development here. But if you deploy your site, and the admin functionality is also deployed, because you want to manage the data on the live website, you of course want to pick a secure password. Now I'll go with my less secure password here, and now this super user was created. Now that it is created, we can restart this server with run server, go back to the admin page here, and then log in with those credentials I just created. And once we log in, we should be greeted by a screen that looks like this. Here, you can, for example, administer your users. And if you click on users, you see all the users you got. And at the moment, that's just one user, which is this super user I created. But you could click on add user here to add a new user with a new username and password and so on. Now, this is all something we haven't built. This interface is not coming from us. This is an interface provided by Django. And that's also one of the very cool features Django offers, that it gives us such an interface to administer our data. But speaking of our data, where is our data? Where are the books which we want to manage?